Hello there, listeners. Welcome to Startup Kitchen Talk, where we discuss startup apprentices becoming master chefs. My today guests are Matous Kostlivy, director of CzechInvest AI Hub, and Jan Cizmar, founder of startup Tolgee. And today we're going to talk about fishing in the realm of AI. Welcome, guys.
Thank you very much for having us, and I'm glad to be here.
Hello. Thanks for the invitation.
Hello, it's me. Okay, my first question is, have you guys ever liked something before it hit the mainstream, before it was cool? Like, for example, reading Game of Thrones before the HBO series, or having Instagram in 2010, or, liking bell-bottom jeans before it was cool. Do you have something like that, Matous?
Yeah, it happens. It happens quite often, actually. It happens sometimes. It happens.
You influencer them.
Yeah, no, not like that, but it can happen with music often. That some song, you like it, and then suddenly you realize it becomes mainstream. For example, it happened to me with the singer Jane, which recently is a French singer, and now with Facebook and TikTok, some of her songs become popular on these networks because people like to share it with those tunes. Other than that, it happened to me, for example, with longboarding. I like longboarding, and once electric...
You liked longboarding long before it was cool?
I started to longboard like 10 years ago, 13 years ago, which was kind of the time before it started to be cool. And then I realized I wanted to try as well electric longboards, because that was the kind of new thing, and it helped you. You didn't need to push with your feet and brake. You just had to control the remote, and this was something I jumped in quite early because it was my passion to ride longboards, and then it became a trend. Nowadays you can see more and more of those micro-mobility tools to be used.
And do you still hit the road, Jack?
Yeah, of course. Not today because it was raining, but otherwise, whenever I can, I commute to work, even to CzechInvest on my longboard, actually, which is quite fun.
Oh, next time I want to try, please. I do only surf skate, so it's a very different game.
Yeah, it could be similar. You could find it quite amusing, actually. It's cool. You should try that.
And very cool commute, though.
Yeah, and with technology it happens quite often. And when we talk about AI, definitely, that's something I used to jump into in the train of ICT support back in CzechInvest like 10 years ago, and it was rather like really broad. In ICT service, there was everything that was covering software development, including as well those shared services for customer services and such. But it included as well the infrastructure services, such as data center support, for example. CzechInvest started to have quite a substantial support in areas of foreign direct investment, promotion of the Czech Republic, and then it started to look as well what it could be developed here further. And that was the time when I first pretty much got in touch with artificial intelligence. It was already in 2016, I guess, that we had a panel discussion at CzechInvest with Professor Pěchouček or Mr. Kleindienst, who are one of the top experts here in AI, and we had a nice discussion about how could be AI utilized in today's economy, and today's economy meaning 2016. So this was kind of before it was cool, but it was obvious that AI may be the next big thing already back then.
So yeah, we have a guest that can foresee the future. How about my other guest? Jan, do you have some examples?
Of being cool before
it was cool.
Cool. Yeah, I don't think so. I never been cool before it was cool. But I'm starting to do some cool stuff now. For example, I wear barefoot shoes, which maybe will be cool like in a few years. And then I will say on next podcast that I was cool and before it was cool.
Because we already started discussion about AI, would you be intrigued by it, Jan? Would you be intrigued at if there wasn't a hype, if there was some small feature that you, I don't know, a year ago or 2 years ago you read about in some, technological journal?
I met AI on high school like 10 years ago, and it immediately felt like this is something. So
How did you met AI in high school?
Like my friend did some work on like reading numbers using neural networks, and it felt like, wow, you can like really use it for something. And yeah, so I felt like the whole time there is hype, and the hype is going like higher and higher the whole time. And now it's peaking, maybe we will see like larger peak in few years, but it's pretty cool.
So it's either peaking or climbing, right?
Yeah.
So did you do something with it
I think
in high school?
Kind of a bit. I didn't like really like program anything, but I was looking at it, at how it's built, and
so that's how your relationship with AI started.
Yeah. Just looking around.
Yeah, well, many relationships start like that.
Yeah.
Matous, what happened? Because the tech was, originally designed as early as in the 80s. So what happened that the boom came now?
Well, I would say that technology as such matured, and by maturing, I mean the AI is really dependent on the amount of data and the hardware that this is running. All the computational power needs to be there in place in order to be able to calculate all you need. And definitely, in the 80s, it was pretty much too early. And by the amount of data, by the sophistication of algorithms, and pretty much even the entire ecosystem at the time wasn't ready to take advantage fully of artificial intelligence. And because as well, and that's important to say, even AI was in the history a part of some ups and downs. And by ups and downs, I mean there were AI winters, and that's what it's called. And pretty much the hype that was launched by researchers and by the potential that artificial intelligence could bring to people, it was soon kind of followed by some not really good examples of how the technology could be utilized back then, and it led to the fact that the finances to the artificial intelligence didn't flow as they could, and at some point in the history, artificial intelligence became entered to the phase that is called AI winter, and this is what pretty much happened back then. Now we are at the phase when the hype, of course, is triggered especially by the amount of computational power, by the amount of data, especially triggered by the internet that really helped with the gathering of the data and opened the gates of what could be done with all these technologies that weren't open back then.
You mentioned AI winter. Is there any AI winter coming?
Winter is coming only in Game of Thrones, hopefully, not in AI. It can happen, of course.
Oh, it's October, so
it happened already twice. But by talking about AI winters, of course, like this positive approach towards technology that is raising expectations can then be met by reality, which is not as nice as was perceived beforehand. And so, of course, if this happens again, it may materialize in a freeze of investments in this area. But at this point, I believe everybody already realized that the potential is there. What can be done with it is real, and it's only about how real are the expectations, how high are the expectations, and how fast they meet the reality. That's pretty much what AI winters were about.
So, Jan, what do you think about the hot AI summer history?
I also think that the current hype we see it happens because of companies like OpenAI created these large models which are presented to general public, so everybody can use ChatGPT and see what it's really capable of. And also we have these models like Midjourney, it all came in the same time, so you can use ChatGPT for generating text content. You can use Midjourney for generating images, which are you can't see a difference currently with the V4 version of Midjourney, which is great. So general public can actually use that.
Yeah, general public can definitely create the hype. And you think that where it lays the difference when generic public uses the tech, that then it creates all the buzz?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so.
Well, that definitely happened. Talking about buzz, like with any buzzword, we are repeating it so very often that its true meaning kind of fades, or original one. So how would you explain AI to grandma or a kid, Matous?
Well, but what is often one of those explanations, what is AI, was that it's technology that is replacing something that was done before by a man. But this is really
Or a woman.
Or a woman. By man, I mean like a
human.
human person. Which can be some nice explanation to a kid or a grandma, but obviously it may not be sufficient in certain areas, because especially when it comes to technology, the technology as it advances, of course, what was perceived once as AI or something really high tech throughout the time can become obsolete or not that much high tech. So even within AI, what used to be considered artificial intelligence back then may not be already today, and this is something very typical to technology. And so even this very kind of definition of AI as being something that was before done by a man, but now it's done by machines, may be kind of something that we need to think twice about. But
Yeah, I can role play a bit more and ask you, Jan, about it. Like, for example, as a grandma, I used to chop my vegetable, but now I use, kitchen robot. So it was
That's
something.
not AI, I think.
Yeah,
Maybe
yeah, of course.
if the
But
robot
I'm asking to role play a bit more. So a chopped vegetable now done by a kitchen robot. Explain, grandma, why is that?
Why is
not
that
AI?
not AI? Yeah. So that's a tough question. I think it has to be something like clever, because chopping is not clever enough. And you have like this, the AI is like superhuman. It knows everything. And sometimes if it doesn't know everything, it lies. So that's definitely what like
kitchen robots don't lie.
Yeah. They don't lie. They stop working, but they don't lie.
So how do you utilize a smarter than kitchen robot AI in your company, in your work?
Yeah, so I should start with what we actually do. We are a tool for translating web apps or different apps to different human languages, and the problem on web apps and mobile apps is that it's full of short strings. Like, for example, you have save button, and this save word can be translated or it can have many meanings. Like, you can save animals, save money, you can save data, or you can save goals. And each of these meaning can have different translation to the target language. And the problem is that if the translator, human or machine, don't have the context, they can translate it wrong. And that's where we use the machine translation and AI, like large language models, because with these models, we can basically provide the context to the model. We also can extract the context from the app and give it to the model. And that's why it's much more reliable, because the model knows it. For example, there is a form for setting new password in Ryanair app, and under the form there is save money button in Czech version of the app. So there is a ušetřete, because the machine translator or human translator who translated this didn't know that it's like form for saving password. But our translator knows the context. It knows there are other strings like password, new passwords, and such. And that's the reason why it translates correctly, because it knows it's password saving form. So it translates.
So it knows the context.
It knows the context, and that's the difference. That's how we use that, and it's super powerful.
And Matous, how about you? How do you use the AI context in your work?
Well, in my work, we, as a Czechinvest agency with Technology Incubation project, we are able to support AI startups at the very beginning of their stage, pretty much the stage when venture capital doesn't really show much of an interest yet. There, the state can step in and boost the initial kind of idea to the phase that it becomes a successful startup, and that's where we we step in as AI hub, because we support first with financial incentives, because that's a subsidy what the CzechInvest supports to startups to kickstart a project. But then, of course, it comes as well to the connections, networking, to the mentorship, and all that is brought to the table by CzechInvest. We try to gather the experts. We try to prepare some networking events and opportunities for startups to pretty much grow in a way that they bring the economic value to the Czech Republic back.
We experience quite a few hypes. I'm remembering the iced tea company that rebranded itself to Long Blockchain Corporation, company making beverages, not utilizing crypto at all. And you are giving a non-equity investment to AI startups. So how do you make sure they aren't, the next Long AI corporation?
So you're right. CzechInvest provides financial support to startups, and we don't take any equity. So this means that it's pretty much a subsidy. It's given by the fact, because it's not really common. And some states in Europe, they run as well their financial support in a way that they take the equity. CzechInvest, due to some aspects that are here given by the legal circumstances we are in, we can't do that. So at the state of time that we are in at the moment, it's a subsidy. And what we do is that we run the startups through the process of selection that has multiple phases, and in this selection process we evaluate their scalability, innovativeness, and feasibility. And there is a process where we select them through their innovativeness, and then if they pass this, they go to the commissions. The commissions are usually formed by experts from the AI field. We cooperate with experts from academia. We have researchers there from.
So you have researchers that will say this is not an iced tea, this is AI.
Indeed, I mean, this is how it should work. So there is it's not based on the opinion of one person or two people. It's based on the opinions of multiple people that enter the selection process. So to say, it's about mixture of people that are from the research, therefore able to evaluate the AI potential or the technical aspect of the given technology of the startup. Then there is somebody, usually we cooperate within the selection process with venture capital funds, for example. So members of these venture capital funds are usually part of the committee that is evaluating the startups. So then they can give another insight about what can be pretty much the weak point of the startup, or what is considered to be the good point, if there is some. And it's a combination of various opinions. Then there is people often from the businesses. We cooperate and incorporate into these commissions as well people from large corporations as well as from startups. Usually those AI experts or people that are focused on the AI field. And this is how we select them. We pretty much, thanks to the cooperation with these experts in various fields, we can then evaluate the startups, give them some kind of ranking, and based on them we select them.
You described you now described the process, and I would be interested in a little bit more broader view. Like, why does a state agency for investment and business development support AI startup? Like, what is the big picture, the big goal?
Yeah, the big goal is that if you support startups, if you support technology as such, it is broadly believe then it is something that economists observed. It brings those economic benefits, the long-term economic benefits that bring the state the opportunity. If you support technologies and technological development, it creates those spillover effects, for example, that then transfer in the long-term economic development into those spillover effects between the businesses and academia, about research, being able to transfer technologies to the real-life products, and vice versa. The companies are, if cooperating with the universities, able to transfer some specific know-how to the researchers at the universities, and this way the entire ecosystem grows. By supporting technologies on various fields, it doesn't need to be startups. You can trigger these positive effects, those positive externalities that can, from the long-term perspective, materialize in the quality of workforce, educated workforce, about the ability to attract foreign talent and as well maintain the foreign talent, not only within the businesses, but as well the top-class researchers. And pretty much this is why entire ecosystem on most of the economies throughout Europe, not only the Czech Republic, but and not only Europe actually, but throughout the world, they try to support startups because they are the source of talent, of technologies, of advancements, and they can become the next big thing. And once that happens, then of course, the more advanced the technology, the more kind of hype there is about the technology. That means that usually the technology is the next big thing that may bring those positive aspects. And that's why CzechInvest as well supports startups, because we would like to have more, not unicorns would be the best way scenario, but it doesn't have to be unicorns. There is as well a way more kind of points which the startups can reach in order to be beneficial for the economy as such. And CzechInvest is doing that, Czech Republic is doing that. It's kind of a new project. Technology incubation started just last year, but CzechInvest is supporting startups for more than last 10 years. It started with the Czech Accelerator project in 2013, and then it moved on throughout various support mechanisms, including, for example, partnerships with the European Space Agency and their European Space Agency Business Incubation project that is as well administered by CzechInvest in the Czech Republic.
That maybe you pointed out something very crucial here. That's, AI Hub is not about just the money incentives and startups, but about creating the whole ecosystem that can cooperate and network and transfer knowledge. That is a very big goal. Yeah. Have you set some KPIs for yourself that, like, if I hit this, then I've done a good work?
To myself? I mean,
yeah.
Okay. Well, my goal is to have really quality startups that are selected throughout the process. So
it's quality over quantity?
Well, I would say definitely. I mean, like, if you take a look at the startups that we are about to support, and I should as well mention that artificial intelligence is not the only field that CzechInvest supports. There is as well mobility, creative industries, ecotech, and artificial intelligence is, of course, now one of the hot topics actually, and most seeked kind of these areas. And definitely from my point of view, it would be quality over quantity, and it would be that we are looking for startups that have this potential to become the next big thing from the point of view of scalability, innovativeness, and feasibility. So if they meet these criteria and they are able to go and become successful on a global stage, that would be the goal for me.
Yeah. And go to the private sector, not be depending on the incentives.
Absolutely.
After that, yeah.
I mean, like, that's the other point. I mean, like, as we mentioned, it's still a kind of a subsidy from Czech state to these startups. And I believe that it's, in the Czech Republic especially, the venture capital that is subsidized by state is not something that we are used to having here. It's pretty much more used. It's a kind of support that was still missing here, and there were discussions about how to launch it. There were some role models abroad that we could leverage on, but at the same time, you can just copy paste it and make it a new project that is about to support startups. You need to put it into the context of local ecosystem and local kind of legal aspects and all that, and it has to click. And I would say that that's the uniqueness of technology incubation, because it was missing here. We could see it in other countries, and other countries are supporting not only their local startups, they as well support the inflow of startups from abroad. They try to attract them with several incentives that could kind of motivate them to come to their territory, start their business there, and operate from there, and therefore trigger those positive effects that I mentioned before in the given territory.
And honestly, is this something that you might be trying to prevent, like from Czech startups starting their businesses elsewhere?
Well, depends, because...
Or are you trying to motivate them to stay home or start their kick-off home?
Well, the ideal scenario is that they grow here. If they grow here, they usually set up their businesses here. They have some local presence. They have some attachment to the local ecosystem. And if they grow, that only means that they become a global company. If they become a global company, within this global company, if they were founded, for example, in the Czech Republic, they usually have big portion of the important and crucial part of the development within the Czech Republic, meaning it can be the R&D services in the Czech Republic, be the headquarters. It can be multiple things that vary a lot. But we can see from other companies that started in the Czech Republic and became global companies, and we can start with big brands like Avast, for example. Even Avast is a global company nowadays, but still has a huge presence in the Czech Republic and is important ecosystem player here.
Yeah, it can motivate another talent so it can thrive, right?
And plus, what we could see as well with one of our startups, because sometimes Czech Republic and Poland have this kind of thing in common, that a lot of people from these countries tend at one point to go abroad to gather some experience. What we could see is that Czechs often tend to come back way more than, for example, the Polish. So this is something very, very unique for the Czech Republic, and that's why I put it into this context, because to go abroad often in this context means that the person comes back with more experience and pretty much with some kind of global overview about the things. So it can be as well beneficial. But of course, we would like to have the companies grow here and stay here if possible.
Oh, Jan, what do you think? Why do you think that the state support is crucial here? What it brought you?
I think that the role of Czechinvest and the technological incubation is more like creating a community, because here in Czechia, the startup community is not that big as, for example, in Estonia or Baltic countries.
Not yet.
And we need to
be optimistic.
We need to push. So what Czechinvest does is great, because they are creating the soil for entrepreneurs to meet and to create larger communities and to meet with VCs. And I, for example, know Startup Kitchen because of Czechinvest. And that's great. So,
nice.
So I think it's very important to create such communities and to help startups. But there are also like different ways how to do that. There is still some laws which might be introduced. And I think Czechinvest is like pushing the government to actually start to talk about that, like maybe about some tax discounts for angel investors and people investing into startups, and also like creating, for example, law about ESOP, because we don't have any legislative about ESOP, which is also a problem, and that's why maybe Czech startups are leaving to Estonia and similar countries. So that's how we can also move forward.
And why do you think, Jan, that the private money isn't enough now?
I don't think that not enough VCs are like currently focusing on the Czech market or in CE. So maybe if there is like larger community, larger like talent pool, then maybe later there will be like enough VCs. But currently it's also like role of state to like define the strategy and to start like pushing a little bit more. So that's why I think it's a good idea to inject some money into the market.
May I? Because
Sure.
you mentioned why there is not enough money or why people don't invest. This is something actually what I feel there is often like this feeling that there may not be enough money from the point of view of startups often, that they say, oh, we have this great product, but there is nowhere, nobody wants to finance it, or nobody wants to talk to us in a way.
But there are a lot of VCs actually. Like, there's not nobody.
Yeah, on the other hand, there is a lot of VCs who claim
There aren't enough startups.
There aren't enough startups. So it's clearly that there is some kind of misconception about what is the good startup or what is the good financing from the VC. And I believe that it may be as well the fact that if you are, for example, let's say a student, you are at the university and you do your research, or you realize that this could have some market potential if you take this technology further, you may not have simply the skills or experience how to become a founder of a startup, what needs to be done in order to establish a legal entity, for example, how to establish a team, what should the business plan look like, and so on and so forth. And this is something that I can imagine that if this kind of person without experience has no clue how to start the project, it can easily deteriorate from the way, and he doesn't become a founder of a startup at all. So this is really important to notice that to kickstart these projects, or be it a person in a corporate somewhere and he sees that this could be done differently and this could have a big potential to bring a value to the companies, he can as well kind of realize that this is the time to become to start this startup idea and take it further, and pretty much he needs to say goodbye to the previous work and employer. And this brings him the tool, the technology incubation, for example, to kickstart it, to start the idea further, to bring it to the next level. And that's pretty much where I can see that even the other investment mechanisms, such as the venture capital, can step in and become a complementary to technology incubation, because once these kind of really talented people start to come up with their ideas and push their projects to realization, then suddenly at some point I can imagine that even the venture capital investment can come in at a later stage once technology incubation kind of takes its place. So this would be my
So it's not a
idea.
competition with the VC,
No.
of course not. It's helpful and it makes the investment less risky.
And I would say it's not a competition at all, and it's not competition as well because I can imagine, for example, a lot of technology transfer kind of offices at the universities. They often don't know where to start or how to start, or they have those interesting ideas within their teams somewhere at the university, and now they may have another tool like technology incubation that can help them to support even their projects at the universities themselves. So
Your comment actually reminded me of one thing, and that is that there is this, I call it CEVC's fetish with the second-time founder. They even sometimes implement it in their VC clause, like they don't want the first-time founders because they, consider them too risky to invest in. Has this ever happened to you, by the way, Jan? Because you are a first-time founder, right?
Yeah, I think so, but no one ever told me. but I think so.
Into your face.
Yeah, it's hard to get feedback from VCs pretty often. So I think
Give
this
feedback, people.
This might be a reason. Like many times we failed. So yeah.
Yeah. So talking about VCs giving you a reason for something. I would like to start with the very big fish competition in the realm of AI, because there's this really big ass players as Alphabet, Google and OpenAI, Microsoft. Is there a space for small startups, and how should they differentiate, Jan?
I think so. For example, we are like Tolgee, we are not competing with them. We are actually using OpenAI models. And I think these companies are working on like different level. They are also like Google and Microsoft are cloud providers. And I think of these larger language models as something which lies on the infrastructure level, like on the cloud. You can actually use ChatGPT via Azure, which is Microsoft's cloud provider. And this is the way why they are doing that. They want to sell the service, but they cannot operate in they cannot create every application in application level. So that's up on the startups to create the cool creative applications for their models.
So what's your startup, David, strategy in the fight with GPT, Goliath, and other colossal language models?
We are using it. That's our strategy. We are not fighting it because it's impossible. Like you cannot. It costed like Microsoft $13 billion to create. They invested in OpenAI, so we cannot like even raise that. Or for example, there is new startup European language model which is open source, and even the data are open source, and they raised $113 million just to create that. So we cannot compete that because we are not enough powerful to create such model, but we can use others models, and we can try to be able to switch from different models to like be flexible. That's what we are trying to do, to not depend on single model. But I think that's enough. Like we can wait until like some open source models are developed in the future, but currently like the current models work great and we can use them. So why to create something which is already invented?
Reinvent the wheel.
Yeah.
Matous, is that something you consider when deciding which startup to support during the application process, like the existence of those big fish, big teeth, tail, and big pockets?
Well, when we consider startups, definitely we consider as well what area of AI they are working with, what is their team, what is their technology about, and how they are complementary with the rest, whether they are developing their own large language models or whether they are utilizing some existing ones, which is definitely the thing nowadays. I mean, they need to find their niche, and then they need to elaborate on it. As we could hear here from Tolgee, it opens as well the opportunities for utilization and application in new areas, and it can open new kind of business opportunities that can be leveraged upon. And in these kind of segments, if the startups elaborates, defines their strengths and added value, and pretty much works with the AI in a way that it develops in a functional product, then it can work. Of course, it's difficult to compete with these big guys because, as Jan just mentioned, just to finance the establishment of a new company that would come up with a solution that would be on par with those large language models from OpenAI or Google, that would take probably a lot of time, a lot of money, and the results might not be clear. It would need the budget that Czech Republic probably is not willing and able to push into these technologies. It would need to have this kind of it would need to be as well part of the national security, I would say, because if you consider that those large language models are in hands of some companies and it's quite impossible to enter this game, then you can become dependent on these technologies themselves. So, of course, it can be a question about whether it would be nice or strategic even to have a local European. I'm not saying about Czech, about European provider of these large language models that could be kind of safeguarded somehow within the EU, simply because then you are not that dependent on somebody who can alter the usage of these models, so they can limit, for example, some words that can't be used or search or
Do
whatever.
you think that is a feasible idea, that Europe will have its own? I know there's some great funding behind it, and the European Union pushes this agenda. Do you think, with your experience, do you think it's feasible?
I think,
As you know, the gatekeeper of new ideas that can predict the future and next type.
At the beginning of this,
It's a
podcast,
tricky
I
question.
didn't want to say that I see the future. I just mentioned some examples that I could see that something I noticed at the very beginning became mainstream later on. But at this point, I would say that Europe is very specific and it has its problems. And within AI, it means not only about, because pretty much at this point, Czech Republic and Europe as such has really good research in AI and artificial intelligence, and there is a lot of world-class researchers. For example, if you consider how many great researchers in France there are within the artificial intelligence, and then you consider who is actually making money of AI, it's usually the US companies. And if you take a look about who is working with the ecosystem and where the French researchers go to work, then you realize it's probably Canada or US, you know. So we have the researchers, we have the research, but the commercialization of this research is this weak point of Europe. And so now we are at the stage when US has most of the finances. It's easier to access the finance. It's easier to get the funding if you are a startup in the US. It's probably easier if you are as well a researcher to run your idea through this process and get it to the stage when you become a startupist. Europe has a lot of problems that needs to reevaluate how they consider AI, how they finance AI, be it research, be it transfer into the real life products. And of course, if they want to start such a big project, such as like run those large language models in Europe, it would be really, really costly. It would probably need some bigger consortia. Czech Republic can't do it on its own. Not at this stage of financing that we are doing and pushing to AI.
So let's see if European large language model is a next longboard.
There is a very good reason to create European large language model, and that's because of security. Because some companies or governments or public institutions don't want to send data to America, and they don't want to send it even to American providers, and that's maybe the reason why they raised so much money, because there will be need for European large language model because of the
that's
legislative.
where the business collides with large continental, not conflicts but policy.
Yeah, and also European strategy should be to maybe be independent or not depend that much on American services. Or maybe you can use in the future you can use the larger language model as a weapon, for example, to doing some frauds and stuff. So maybe it's gonna be great to have open source model where we can actually see what's happening inside.
Yeah, I would as well add that it's not that because we are part of this Euro-Atlantic kind of world that we are in, meaning that of course we don't see a threat that may occur at any moment from the United States. Of course, that's our partner, and I would say that it's something that we just need to face and we need to think about. It's as well about the fact that as we are part of this world, it's about the cooperation within this part of the world. But as well, if we could see how fragile the economies can be, how important are foreign kind of inflows that can affect, even within AI, we are not talking about some commercial aspects. We are talking about ability to influence government elections, for example, or ability to intervene into the national security aspects, how you can manipulate the general public, how you give them the answers to the questions they are looking for, and how you carve them in a way that it can form the general kind of approach to things that can be of this security kind of aspect. And that this is something that needs to be discussed, and this is something that when you think about that, it's in the hands of few people that are running these companies, and they run the hardware, they run the software, algorithms and everything, and they can influence all that. Then it can be tricky. And
that's what I meant by
weapon,
weapon, actually.
that this, because I'm gonna torture you with that subject a little bit more.
Okay.
Because do you think that this ship hasn't sailed yet? Because this was a similar argument with, creation new social media, because all the social media with very similar threats and danger that you just mentioned, with all the influences it has on governmental election, etc. We knew that it gets this examples of Cambridge Analytica at this, but there's from my personal point of view, there's zero chance we can suddenly come up with social media that could stand a chance with Meta or TikTok as Europe for now. Do you think that if you compare this to social media, that this ship isn't, across the Atlantic yet, that we still can catch it?
Well, I think it's on the table. I mean, we are behind the US when it comes to. They are simply ahead of us. We talk us as Europe. Definitely, United States with their investments that they made in the past years, they are ahead. Absolutely. We can, as a Czech Republic, as Europe, take some actions, and I think Europe is doing one of these actions already now. They are trying to implement AI Act, or at least come up with some discourse on this topic about how AI should be regulated in the future. What should be actually one of some of the areas that will be overseen, and what areas shouldn't be limited, because it simply can bring Europe backwards when it comes again to the development. And we are part of the world, and the world means not only US, it means as well China, it means as well other countries that are really strong in development of artificial intelligence, and they all can utilize these models and deep learning and stuff like that can bring those solutions that might be harmful. But I don't think that it's sailed yet. It's just hard to catch up, if not impossible. I would say it's really important to raise these questions and come up with some solution about what to do. But it's not easy topic. Yes.
It's also a question for the new legislation, etc. But from what you say, what I hear is that Europe is lacking the money. The US is very much ahead of us when it comes to investments and money put on the table. At the same time, we're not behind as Europe in the realm of research and brains. Is this something you agree with?
I'm afraid that the regulation will backfire. Maybe that maybe it's gonna slow us down, and the America is going to be faster again, because in European Union we are pretty great in regulating stuff, but then it's maybe slowing us down. So please don't think about it twice. But
some husband is saying in American Congress, regulate us. So,
but it's not only about states regulating those activities. It's as well, and that's what we could see with OpenAI and Elon Musk and those guys that raised the topic actually that we are discussing now quite publicly. They wrote this kind of letter about how AI should be overseen in the future, and that
they are saying one thing and then they are lobbying against it.
I know,
right.
I know.
So.
But just that this is the context we are in. This is something that it's not raised only by us here, but by states. It's a question that is raised as well by those big guys that are actually developing those large language models, simply because they all realize what it could bring to the table, and how big how big of a power it gives to certain people which are not elected by anybody. They just run the company, and they have the resources, they have the algorithms, and they have the computational power, which is not really matched by someone else. So it's really about accumulation of these strategic resources in hands of somebody who can affect pretty much somebody on another continent quite easily, without or anywhere in the world, if these technologies become disseminated way more than they are now. Because at the moment we are just at the beginning. We are just at the beginning when people start to play with these tools and how they can generate picture and how they can generate text. But soon it may become way more powerful tool for all those that could try to find some ways how to make some fraud, and they write emails and they can do it way more efficiently. And all those aspects are just pieces of puzzle into these new technologies that appeared, but it can soon become way more kind of connected to everyday people's lives and connected to everyday people's solutions. And once we become dependent on these solutions, then of course we are in hands of somebody who can somehow.
And we haven't even started talking about the military, but let's leave that for our next podcast. Bringing the discussion a little bit back to Czech Republic and the technology incubation. We already touched the subject of the due diligence. Apart from the all-time classics as the team and go-to-market strategy and business model, is there something unique that you are considering when making due diligence of the AI startups?
Yeah, unique. Of course, because as I mentioned, there's more people that are entering the due diligence at certain stage. At one point, we consider their innovativeness, and one point we have to evaluate what is their technology development plans, what they would like to allocate the support to. But we as well evaluate whether they have. Whether they are an AI company themselves, whether they have their team that is developing the algorithms, or whether they are just utilizing AI in a smart way that brings some new product to the market. We as well evaluate in multiple ways. For example, this support is for companies, small companies, not older than 5 years. So at one point we need to evaluate as well these little aspects. For example, some companies are interconnected. They have some Dutch mother, for example, from Netherlands, and then for example, these little pieces they need to be as well kind of
so they are not just
overseen.
How do you call it? White horse or
yeah. And actually,
white horse in Czech is white horse. In English,
I think it's the same.
I don't think so. I think it's like Czech invention, this word, but.
Yeah, it's an idiom of of a company that is newly founded just to get the incentive, for example.
Yeah, I think it's in English the same. Maybe not. Depends. But anyway, this is one of the interesting points, because of course, if it's a subsidy for small companies, and then suddenly some companies may.
So you need to do some legal background check as well.
Yeah, we do that. But unlike other mechanisms and support tools in the Czech Republic, we control this at the very end of the process. So we don't do this with all the companies that apply, but only with those that are selected at the end. So
that would be a nightmare.
This is something that we try to do in order to make the process a bit easier, faster, and because it's still startup support, so not to be like a typical traditional subsidy that is given to the companies.
So how did the technology incubation, how did it help you? Could you, for example, postpone your pre-seed?
Yeah, it made our runway larger.
Longer?
Longer. So that was great. So we could work on our project longer. But also, what I like the most about it is that I really meet the people from the industry. Like there is a lot of events, and every day in the Slack channel of the Technological Incubation and AI Hub, there is like a lot of new events or new opportunities where we can meet with other people from AI, and that really helps. So I think this is great. We also can attend like workshops and learn stuff about that. And if you are first time founder, it helps a lot as well. So these are the main reasons why I would recommend to founders to join it.
Amazing. And talking about things that help, I would like to ask, because there is a various point of views on the hype and if the hype does help or doesn't help startups. For example, there are many voices coming from American market that AI startups claim that the hype helped them to hire people, for example, but it's not helping as much as, for example, previous hypes as metaverse or blockchain to raise money. So what is your experience with AI hype? Does it help you?
I think both. Like there is a lot of, because since we are doing like localization and translation stuff, then I pitch to investors, and then they show me like Google Translator and say like, yeah, we can do it with Google Translator. So what are you doing here? And now it happens with ChatGPT. So fortunately, I already know how to explain that. But it took a lot of time to actually explain why.
Do you think that there's something like lacking in technological knowledge on their side? From what you just said.
I don't think so. Like they cannot like be experts in every field, and localization is like still, or it's kind of niche. I think like not every investor can know about that, so it's okay. It's about us to explain it correctly. So I don't think there is lack of. I think that investors are pretty educated in AI actually. So that's cool, and that's maybe the reason also why, like it doesn't help that much in raising money, because there is like every startup can use, almost every startup can use AI somehow. Mm-hmm. So then you have like all the startups are suddenly AI. So, and if everybody is AI, then there is no difference, So that might be also the reason why it doesn't help that much.
Yeah, definitely.
But it's like, yeah, it works also that we can, that we are AI startups, that there are like special incubators and special VCs who specialize in AI, so we can like talk to them as well, which is also cool.
Following on the white horse idiom that we are still not sure if it's applicable, we have another one, which is a Czech saying like that something grows like mushrooms after rain, which is translatable to like, yeah, we need Tolgee for that, like popping up like weeds. Are you feeling the same in the AI hub? Like the numbers are growing, and what if yes, because I see you nodding, what percentage of all the applicants are now AI startups?
Well, I'm nodding because it's true. We even at Czechinvest with an AI hub and technology incubation, we realized, we noticed that there is bigger interest from AI startups when it comes to the support than from other technological fields. As I mentioned, it's we have 2 calls for support behind us, and within those 2 calls, we supported those 4 areas that I mentioned at the beginning: mobility, creative industries, ecotech, and artificial intelligence. Out of all these, artificial intelligence was the most seeked that we could kind of see. Actually, within the first call, we got like 117 applicants, and out of these, 39 were AI startups. In the second call, we recorded 196, so nearly 200 applications for AI support, and out of these, 269 startups were or categorized themselves as AI. So they were then evaluated and taken care as AI startups. So out of all these technologies and out of all these supported areas, AI raises the biggest interest from applicants, from startups.
What Jan said just intrigued my next question because I do agree that everything is becoming AI. So, for example, startups combine mobility or creativity with AI. So how do you differentiate? Do you say, well, go to Creative Hub in that case, or go to Mobility Hub, or go to AI? What is the, on that T section or 4 section or whatever, how do you differentiate?
Good point, actually, because that's related to what Jan just mentioned. That as a buzzword and as AI becomes more and more kind of omnipresent, so to say, we can see that pretty much everybody is now using in some part of their business, at least to some extent, artificial intelligence, or if they don't, they should very soon. And of course that triggers the idea: what is actually the AI startups that we are about to support, and who is just a startup that is using AI technology? And we could see that there, from the applications, this was actually very, very common. It was either the team was present within the company, so the technical know-how, and that the team that was there was able and capable of developing their AI themselves. Then it was like really centered AI startup behind the AI technology. That was one part of the startups that applied, and it was the most interesting part, I would say. Then there was the other part which already had some technical or technology, or they even had their startup running already, and they were thinking about improving their existing technology with AI, and then they applied to technology incubation themselves as well. And then there was this third category which tried to utilize those new tools and solutions that there are behind AI in order to come up with some new service that was missing here on the market. And they didn't have their technology expertise or AI experts within the team, but they are really good at combining various tools together and bringing it as a new solution. And each of these aspects had its pros and cons. I would say the most interesting one was the first category of startups that I mentioned there, that had some of the technology background already within their team that could be elaborated upon. So these, yeah.
So these are the core.
These were the core. These were if I should kind of generalize what kind of startups and what is their relation to AI technology, I would say it's this. Either they have the know-how within the team, or they are utilizing or using and putting together various AI kind of tools that may be there from those big guys like OpenAI. And some of them are trying to carve their
But they
existing
still need
technology.
like some magic, right? Some
Yeah.
magic potion on it, or
We can talk about Tolgee, how they do it, for example, because I can imagine, for example, even if you are within the technology field. And sorry, before I pass you the word, what I found out, for example, I used to work before in a company called Valeo, and their R&Ds and is focused on autonomous driving, and so I was really close to how AI can be utilized in autonomous driving. And you could see that the company, because it's a huge company, it's one of the biggest tier 1 supplier in the world, they had their research team within AI as well in the Czech Republic. There was one Valeo AI researcher, and they had cooperations with local researchers at universities. One of the teams was working as well with what we now see, how AI can generate and or alter the existing video or picture in a way that it looks like another one. So, for example, in automotive, this was a big topic because you could save a lot of money if you don't need to drive the car around in the physical space, but you, for example, can utilize the once recorded image and alter it in a way that it creates from the day video, it can create a night video. You record the video in summer and it can create the winter images from it, and so this is the where those generative adversarial networks could be in hand already before it started to be so omnipresent now with all those tools and services that everybody can play in their living room with. But what it as well means that where the researchers tried to, for example, generate some pedestrians on the somewhere on the crossroad or something, suddenly there are tools that can be way more easy to utilize, and they bring you the benefit than to finance your own research in-house. So this is as well the question: where is the line where you finance your researcher in-house because it's simply cutting edge and you know that it can bring those huge kind of benefits in the future, but at the same time it's costly, it takes time, it doesn't need.
That's the innovator's dilemma all over.
Yeah. But on the other hand, suddenly then somebody comes with this generating tools that is able to do the work that the researcher was working on. And so I can imagine that a lot of researchers nowadays, and companies as well, had to change and shift their ideas simply because the innovation within artificial intelligence within this last year was so fast and it was changing a lot of kind of research parts of many startups, companies, and researchers at the academia. That would be perhaps rather my question to somebody who is making localizations from other languages, because I can imagine that if you are within this area, it can really you need to follow the trends and be able to adapt to them.
So what was your approach to this innovators dilemma?
So when we were entering technological incubation, we were thinking about creating our own model or extending existing models for translation. And we did some research. We found some ways how we can do that. We found some partners who would help us with that. But suddenly, ChatGPT became a thing, and we decided to test it, and we were immediately sure that it's impossible to create something which would be comparable to that.
Yeah.
So there was no reason to create actually our custom translator. And so we can focus on providing the context and the context extraction, which is our USP. So that's great. So we can focus on the application level, create the stuff around that to actually make it reliable. There's also problem with this large language models that sometimes you got non-reliable result, and you have to handle that somehow. So that's the challenges. Even there are technological challenges. It's not just about plugging in black box and say that's it, buy it. So
this is the internet.
So that's not how it works. You still need to have something unique and some technology around it to deliver something different. And that's, I think, how other startups should differentiate, that they should create something unique and find their niche. So it's still the same game. But
do you think that we will call them all AI startups in near future? Will it be, or it will become completely obsolete, saying, if startup says we use AI, it will become the same thing, we use internet?
I would say no.
But you still say it's IT startup, right? Or
Do you?
or not? Maybe not. Yeah, right.
Depends,
okay.
But that brings me to the beginning of when we talk about how the technology can evolve in a way that what was considered once AI, for example, in production, if you do some automation of some kind of automation of that kind could be considered at one point really high-tech AI, but at some point throughout the time it deteriorates. It's not anymore the high-tech. There is way more that can be done with data, with algorithms, with artificial intelligence, and suddenly you realize that what you used to call AI is now really not considered the thing. Mm-hmm. So it can happen. It can definitely happen once these tools and services become more present within the services, and companies start to work with it, and it becomes to be automatic, so to say, that if you are in this business, you probably operate with this and that. Then I can imagine that people start not to use it, because now it's a buzzword. And so if AI became a buzzword, similarly like it used to be cloud, similarly like it used to be Industry 4.0, at some point it becomes a buzzword because everybody knows it's something high tech. So if you use this word, everybody is like, oh, and now it's interesting, and this guy knows what he's talking about. So it's similar with 5G. At some points, it was all about
IoT.
because with 5G it was even nice because you could see that 4 and 5. So 5 is newer than 4. So 4G and 5G. Obviously, if you used 5G, it showed this is the guy who is walking with the future because 5G is not here yet. Yeah. So this is similar thing. Like
but aluminum heads won't help us here, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, those 5G protection.
Okay. I was just thinking about.
Why did I mention aluminum? Oh, this was my favorite thing.
You really wear it?
If I would wear it, yeah, for sure. Yeah, it will protect me from the AI implementation in my brain. That's where I will wear at our panel during the Days of AI that are coming. Yeah, no, not over my dead body. Tell us about that. Tell us about the event that you're planning.
Oh yeah, yeah, there is Dny AI, AI Days in English, but which is a festival of artificial intelligence. We don't like the word festival, but it's a event which takes place in 4 cities. It's in Brno, and it starts actually on 9th of October, and then it goes from Brno to Plzeň, and then it goes to Ostrava, and it's then ended in Prague. The 4th week. So it's 4 weeks full of activities, meetups, workshops, and presentations, interesting presentations and speeches and panels about artificial intelligence. One of these is as well organized by Czechinvest, which is called AI Startup Pitch Contest. So if you are an AI startup, definitely take a look at it. And
where should they go?
Well, you should definitely go to this podcast. I think it's definitely check the Czechinvest website. Check the LinkedIn and social media. We share it there, and there is a site where you can register for these events. It's on 12th of October in Brno. It's on 16th of October in Plzeň and 23rd of October in Ostrava. So these are the next events. In each of this event, we will have different partners in a committee that will help us to select the startups from venture capital investors, and so there will be a lot of things to learn about startup support, about AI startup support. There will be panel discussions going on, and then there will be
hosted by aluminum heads.
Yeah, aluminum heads, and then there will be as well the startups presenting their ideas. So definitely vote.
What can they win?
They can win fame, and they can win as well an article on czechstartups.org website. They can win a lot of interest from the venture capital investment, perhaps, if they are good at the pitching. We will see. There will be a lot of networking opportunities as well. So definitely if they come.
Yeah, lots of VCs investing and interested in AI.
Absolutely. I mean, like, as we mentioned, buzzwords, they generate interest, and at this time of play, we are talking about AI as being the next buzzword, simply because it becomes as well more known and utilized by the general public. The potential nowadays can't be underestimated by anybody. Pretty much everybody has heard about artificial intelligence nowadays, or has had the chance to generate some text or images themselves. They could as well alter some images if they wanted. So the tools for general public are here. You can use them. You can with artificial intelligence translate websites and applications to other languages, which is really nice. And I can imagine that such services will become more and more relevant for our everyday lives. There is a big potential if you are a tech enthusiast, then I can imagine you have a lot of ideas of what could be done with this technology. And if you have ideas about what can be done with this technology, definitely try to put it on paper, try to think about how to put it to the next stage, and apply for AI Startup Pitch Contest.
Are you applying?
Yeah, I'm applying to Brno and Plzeň, and I also have presentation in Brno.
So you can apply to multiple cities.
Yeah, I think so. They told me to. And I have presentation in Brno on Thursday about how we are actually doing that, what we are doing. So if you want to like deep dive into the technology, then you can go there.
Yeah, great. So I'll see you both in Pilsen and in Brno because I'm hosting it, and I will just bring the big black box, and we can say this is.
Yeah,
this is
but the
internet.
presentation I have is in the evening in Brno, in Art Bar.
In Art Bar. Well, let's see you there. Thank you guys for coming. Thank you, Altan, and see you Thursday then.
Thursday, yeah.
And by the way, find any information about the Days of AI, Days of Future Past. No, about AI Days and Czechinvest in the copy of this episode. You'll find all the information there. See you next time. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.